Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I'm John McCabe. I'm the co-host of the Channel Surfers, and I'm joined, as always, by my great friend Jeff Lennon and co-host Jeff Lennon. So, how you doing, Jeff?
Hey, John. Good morning, man. Great to see you.
You too. So, finding, recruiting, and onboarding the right partners—that's a theme of our show today. Something you and I are pretty passionate about. And we've talked a lot about it in different shows, but we also talk about it privately when we're do our planning sessions. Um, what's the importance of choosing the right partners to scale efficiently? I mean, do you really feel like 100 partners get you to the promised land, or do you feel like 5 to 10 help you get to the promised land? And I know this is something you're really passionate about. So I'm going to tee it up. What's your take on finding and recruiting and onboarding the right partners for a sales organization?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think you kind of hit on the head. I mean, we've danced around aspects of this topic on a couple previous podcasts, and what really kind of for me kind of stimulated or spurred this was listening to and having other conversations even outside of our dialogue, right? And I happen to see a post. Pardon me. I happened to see a post last week, and it really kind of hit home because this person that I had met through partnership leaders had posted that they had this partner and everything was going and things were it's almost like dating, right? Things were kind of moving very quickly, and the partner was like, yeah, let's go, I'm ready to sign up and this and that, and she kind of was like, well, hold on, and she posted this like, hey, let's pump the brakes. We don't have all the right pieces in place, right? So, and part of finding and recruiting and onboarding a partner, it is about choosing the right partner, making sure it's a good fit, not only for your business, right, but for their business.
Yep.
Does it fit within the ICPs that you're going after? Does it fit within the ideal partner profile? Did you, right? We talked about that. Did you develop one? And part of this comes back to, do you have an ideal partner profile? How do you identify and qualify? And I was really kind of taken back. I thought her post, it kind of resonated with me because you and I have talked about this. I mean, I've gone in doing a couple channel jobs in the past, and the predecessors, the leadership, not by the fault of the channel person, but the metrics that were in place were, hey, we need to sign up, as many partners as possible.
Yeah.
And they gave them quotas. And they went out and they would sign up, 25, 30 partners a quarter.
Yeah.
And those partners weren't driving revenue. They weren't doing it, but it gave them the optics that they had this great, channel set up.
Yeah. That's so relevant to my experience. Like I've taken over programs where my predecessor was commissioned on the number of partner contracts she signed up. And when I came in and went through the list of partners, some of them partners, they didn't even have an idea who the company was that was partnered with them. They didn't know us, and it was just a waste of time. So we actually, basically fired a lot of partners, got rid of them and the contracts, and really honed in on a select few. I'm a big proponent of focus partners. I've talked about this probably on different shows, but like you said, the ICP has to match. The technology has to resonate with the partner. They have to understand it. If you can build services around your product with the partner, even bigger win. But that's where you focus your attention with a few versus a lot, right? And I think that leads into the second part of this question. What are the common mistakes companies make when they recruit channel partners? And I think not hitting the ICP and just signing someone up to put paper together and show that you're doing something, right? I think those are some of the common mistakes. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I do, and I use the reference. I absolutely agree with that. I've always kind of akin it to almost like dating, right? You're trying to build a relationship with the partner. It's got to be good for them. It's got to be good for you, kind of thing. And what is the mutual benefit? What's the mutual outcome, right? So if you're filling a gap with your solution, right, is helping to fill a gap within their go-to-market, that makes it a lot easier. There's a handful of partners, right, where you're kind of competing against yourself, right? Which I get. Some of the bigger partners, right, they have so many. I always use, and I'll kind of digress. I used to find it really interesting, and I'm going to give Optiv a lot of credit. I think it was probably 6 years ago or so. They used to have this massive chart of the ecosystem okay, and where all these different products sat. And what I found interesting was, it's great that they're showing this chart of all the ecosystem, but when you take a step back, you realize they were all products that they offered. So it was kind of a double-edged sword, of sorts for a vendor, because there is no exclusivity, right? So you need to know that you're going to have to go compete on the merits and the capabilities of your product, your solution, and the value that you're driving. I think another part of this we'll get into is the ecosystem, right? How does this fit within the ecosystem sell?
Yeah.
So to your point, some of the common mistakes that I've seen is, like I said, they're signing up, they're bringing on partners with no plan, with no clear objective. They're not really tied to, maybe what the leadership is looking for at the partner or even at our level within the organization, to make sure that we have, congruency of how we're trying to go to market and what we're trying to do. I think I've mentioned this in the past. A lot of times you have to sign up a partner because they're of a client or an opportunity. And whether you want to do the full contract or a one-off contract, it's still a lot of the same steps. I mean, it's like
still a contract, right? You still have to go through the pains of it, right?
And it's all because you're trying to get a customer. You're working with a customer, and they're there to help kind of facilitate that, because that partner has paper with the customer, right? They're the chosen partner or provider for the client, which is great. But a lot of times I'll say nothing comes after that. Like, you get that one deal and then it's, nothing happens. And I've seen that where I've gone in, but I'll kind of take a step back here. That is, a great way to get it started. But I think too many partners or too many businesses, channel managers, they don't really figure out how do they go drive that? How do they go now take this opportunity, this seed that was already planted, and now we've got this revenue stream happening, and how do we go horizontal? How do we go, and do more with that partner? Because it was advantageous because of the client's needs. And I've seen where, it could be 2-3 years down the road, they're like, how do we have this partner? We don't really do it. Like, people have forgotten, people have moved on, well, we have this partner, and they only have one client, and they didn't, nobody realizes that was the genesis of how that partnership began, but nobody really invested to go figure out how to grow it for whatever reason. So anyway, I see that as one of the big kind of pitfalls, is just understanding that does it match the customer profile, and did you do your research? Do you have a partner profile? Sorry.
Let's help our audience now, and let's help them, identify and qualify partners. And let's start with defining the ideal partner profile. I think you and I have talked about it already in this show, matching the ICP, but what else? What else defines the ideal partner profile? I'd say if you're in a vertical like we are in cybersecurity, have to be cybersecurity focused, right? But I also would say that they have they appreciate and understand your technology, and they see the need for your technology, right?
Yeah, it comes back to a saying I've used a lot, where you sit and where you fit, right? So where do you sit in the ecosystem, and how does that fit with your go-to-market, right? So, but to your point, being in the right vertical helps, and being in the vertical of cybersecurity helps. I think the other, from an ICP perspective, is what is the verticals that they have the knowledge, capabilities, and expertise in. What does their vertical look like today?
Yeah, for sure.
Are they working in legal? Are they working in healthcare? Do they work in regulated markets, or are they over here doing more commercial stuff? Like that. That's a big difference. I mean, I learned an interesting thing over the past probably 18 months. We had some opportunities within, I'll call it the casino gaming, which kind of is it's its own vertical.
Oh yeah.
But there's also the Indian gaming, which is a whole nother separate vertical.
That's a sub vertical of the vertical, right? Yeah.
But there's a level of knowledge and expertise that a partner can bring to the table there. And it's not just, hey, we do this. Hey, I can work with banks. Okay, great. That doesn't really fit like where we're trying to go as a business. I was working with a client, or doing some fractional stuff with a company out of St. Louis, and they actually had a whole solution approach and solution set to work with, the Indian gaming or that type of business. And they also could do other gaming, right? The casino gaming stuff. And by the way, it's highly regulated.
Yeah.
B, they're under constant attack. I mean,
You money involved behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, Caesars, MGM, and stuff. Like, there were some massive things that happened, but there's a lot of different gaming across the country in different states, and there's a lot of different regulations. So the need is there, but having the right partner that understands that, can be the make or break, right? So I think that's definitely something that's really important, that can help you stand out. And by the way, it comes into, I'll say, the onboarding, right? When you're trying to bring on board to get somebody, to get this partner, after you've identified and you're going through kind of, I'll call it the recruiting stage, you're trying to figure out the onboarding, what is the level of engagement that you're getting, because they need to understand how to sell your product. They need to understand the technology of the product. I've always found that kind of the technology piece always kind of jumps first, making sure that their technical people understand it, because they're the ones that will support the salespeople. So I think that's, again, something else that I think needs to be thrown into the mix, where you don't have to be that technical person, but I will give shout outs to the many sales engineer, solution engineer, people that I've worked with in my career. I'm a pretty technical guy, and I get the aspects of what's going on from a technical perspective. And like I said, we'll touch on the eco stuff because I think that's important.
Yeah.
But, a huge shout out to the SEs and solution engineers that I've had the opportunity to work with, because getting in front of their technical teams and talking the talk and walking that talk, and doing the trainings, and then being able to follow up, having that kit, like, super, super important, because they're the ones that are going to make sure that the sales reps at the partner have the
SCs are gold to me. They're gold. There was a survey on LinkedIn the other day, and it's I guess the quote was, "Only sales people will go to President's Club because they drove the sale. No technical people are allowed." And the survey was, "Do you think that's the right approach?" And I was like, "Hell no! They deserve it. They actually help drive that sale." And as a partner sales engineer, they're the ones that do the enablements. They're the technical shoulder to lean on. They relate to the technical people. And let's face it, when you're selling cybersecurity technology, you need to have people that know the nitty gritty of that, right? So they're very important. And that's a great definition of the perfect partner, having the right technical alignment that you can rely on, and that's one thing I always really support is, a sales engineer for the channel.
It's funny you say that. I'm trying to rephrase things because of our conversation last week, but it is funny that you say that. Sorry. When we were working together at FireEye, and I was very fortunate, and I was able to, within technically my first full year as a channel manager, get channel manager of the year. And I remember going, I was stunned. I knew that I did well, and I knew there were some other people that were also doing well. But the reason I bring that up is, again, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Jason Forsch. He was my sales engineer, solution engineer, channel sales engineer, whatever you want to call him back then. But I'm going to give him a huge shout out because, after I got the acknowledgement, and I was kind of floored. Not that I wasn't expecting it, right? I knew that I did well, and things had turned around. But I took the award and the I guess whatever you would call it, the monetary thing. And as I did it probably too casually, but I basically just gave it to him. I was like, man, I couldn't have done this without you. Like, there's no way. And
yeah, I agree.
And again, the way that they scheduled the stuff, the club trips and all that. There's, like I said, he was basically at the front of the list, but there were other people. There were people on the marketing team. There were other people on the support team, that were there and helped, to get the execution. So this comes back to, on the onboarding piece. And I'll steal a phrase that I've used since the late '90s, and is there's always, to me, there's two types of customers: internal customers and external customers. And when you're trying to onboard, you need to make sure that you understand, like, that you're actually trying to help teach, and educate a partner to go do what your company needs to get done in your absence. Yep. They have to go sell and drive solutions in your absence. So the more that you can drive enablement, pardon me, I think the better, which comes back to, I think, one of your points, not to go too far off on one of the other podcasts. We talked about LMSs, right? And having a learning management to be able to help do the education and drive efficacy around what we're trying to do,
Yeah, exactly. And look, I think, there's a lot of value in everything we're just talking about. Like, sales engineers are part of that enablement. LMS is a constructed, focused way to train partners. But outside of that, I mean, how many lunch and learns have you gone to? How many like office visits have you done? And like, I have my sales engineer with me. It's like Batman and Robin, and we've got to go together and be there. And I rely on them. They're so important to the whole, the ability to qualify and have the right partner relationships. That's key to the right, partner to put into your ecosystem to sell your products. But let's talk about attracting partners that align with your vision. Like, what's a great value prop that you could, compelling and partner value prop that you could suggest to the audience?
Well, I'll go back to one of my favorite books, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Yep.
And one of the first habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think too often, we go out there with, hey, we have to go sell this, and this is how you have to sell it. And, I hate to say, kind of dehumanize it is maybe another way to look at it. But I always say seek first to understand, then to be understood. Go talk to your partners. I mean, obviously you're trying to recruit, you're trying to qualify, is this a good partner? The only way to do that is to understand their business, what they do, how they do what they do, where's their sweet spot. And one of, I think, the crown jewels is, how do their people get compensated? I hate to say it, but this is the deep truth, is understanding how the partners get compensated, and how that rep that you're going to work with, so that you can make sure that you're getting the alignment, so that it's a win for them, it's a win for you, and it's a win for the client. Because when it's a win-win-win, obviously, right, it's 3 wins, but everybody, you want everybody to win. And everybody has to get a little bit of the piece, of the pie, so to speak. But I think it is understanding where that partner sits, and understanding how they're going to be successful.
Exactly. I was going to say, what is it? Like, there's a way to everybody's heart, right? Like, the way to a happy marriage. The husband, happy husband. It's a way to his stomach, right? Happy wife, happy life. You got to make them happy, and everybody wants. What makes the partner happy? And I think we've talked about this before, like the gross profit, getting the right margin for them so they make money on what you're doing. I think also making it easy for them to get into a deal and bringing them into deals, right? So like that's a key part of the value props. Like, we're going to help you make money. Our GP is X for you, and look at the all the accoutrements we offer with it. Enablement, support, X, Y, and Z after that, right? So I think that's key for a value prop to attract, the right partner.
Well, it's got to, like, to your point, it's got to be compelling. Number one, you have to have that compelling value proposition for them. I'm a big guy, or a big believer in the whole differentiation, right? What is your story and what makes you different? I've said this to many people, and you get caught up in it. It's like, oh, well, we're better. Well, what do you mean better? Like, something better to you may not be better to this person, but this is what we do, and this is why. And I mean, it comes back to sales, right? And how you're helping people solve problems. I used to, one of my mantras used to be, stop selling and start solving. Start figuring out how you solve a problem, and you can solve a problem by showing how you do things differently, and why being different makes, you're not part of the, the herd over here that's I used to call the EDR market a knife fight.
Yeah, really. We were like
Because
150 EDR vendors at one point.
yeah, but well, even now, I mean, there's a few that have risen up, but it's like, the same thing happened to the CNAP market, right? The cloud native application
Yeah,
market.
really.
But I guess where I'm trying to go is, it's know your brand, know what your story is, understand the differentiation. Big, force management training. That was the big thing. Tell me how you not just better but differently, because being different may be the different process, the different approach, it may be better, right? If somebody's doing something and it's taking 8 steps and you're doing it in 5, it's going to simplify a process, make everybody happy. I think that's great. I also think that, when you're looking at, and again, for me, right, I don't want to get too preachy. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's about, like I said, be genuine, be authentic, right? It's a big thing now. I mean, I've always felt that I've tried to be that way. But understanding where that other person sits. It's like you just said, it's a relationship, whether it's, one of my favorite things that I have hanging out in our kitchen area is, when when the queen is happy, the kingdom's at peace, kind of thing. And but seriously, if you can understand where that partner is, and you've, by the way, you've documented your ICP, your ideal, and your partner profile, so you've got both. You know what the customers you want to go after. You know what the type of partner you're looking for. I think we've shared this. Are you looking for just a standard reseller, solution reseller? Do they have the expertise? Why would they want to do, like, why us? Why now? Right.
Yeah.
Why did they want to do this with us, and why would they want to do it now? And why is it important, and impactful to the client?
Exactly. No, I think it's, it's not about you, it's about them and you, how much you need them. You don't stick your hand out and ask for deals. There's a rep that I'm working with now, and he's comes from a reseller, and he said, "Hey, the vendor reps used to call me up and say, here's what I want. I want 5 meetings and 5 deals." And he's like, I'd ignore them. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the right approach. You've got to go to the partner and give them something. And that's part of your value prop to them. Like, hey, we're going to introduce you into partner, vendor-led deals, but we'll give you, your margin, your not deal reg, but you're going to get a margin on it, right? All right, let's switch to onboarding and enablement and best practices of that, because I think something that you and I talk about, I think it's near and dear to both our hearts. I think if you're not training your partner, they're not going to sell your product. They're not going to understand it. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to identify opportunities that they have within their own customer and prospect, list of accounts. So what's a good structured enablement program that you've used?
Well, I think that's the key, right? Is to have a structured program, to actually have a plan of, okay, we're going to bring somebody on, and laying out those steps. We're going to, it's kind of a crawl, walk, run, sprint kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've always found successful is, hey, we will sell with you. We're going to sell side by side. So we've got this onboarding, the solution engineer, channel sales engineer, he's going to work with your guys. So you're going to have this kind of one-on-one kind of approach working with their people. That's one way. The other is, do we have right training? Do we have some right training materials that we can put in front of them that makes sense? The
partner
challenge
portal.
No, absolutely. Right. Having a partner portal, but having the right information in the right way that it's, I think getting something that's is easier to digest, right? It's how you want that partner to consume your information. I honestly think it's gotten harder. The attention span has gotten shorter. One of the things that I've been seeing that I would probably add into my whole, like, hey, we're going to do this training, and yeah, we have the partner portal, is doing more, video based type of training. You have these different training things and checklists. It's hard to get people to buy in. I'll take a half step back here and just say, when you're working with a partner, they could be selling 30, 40, 50 other products, right? They could
Yep.
have in their line card because they do all these different things. And yeah, your product is a good fit, but getting the time for them to actually engage can be difficult. I've seen. I'll give again. I love throwing names out, but our buddy friend Phil Kill. I watched him masterfully do some things with a national partner
Mm-hmm.
to get the buy-in, to get the training done. And the whole point was you need to get people to at least look at it to understand how you can go execute on that product
Yep.
so that they understand what the product is so that they can support the sales reps. And it was all around the technical piece, right? So I think having a structured approach, having a training program, having it be flexible, having your SE lean in, having yourself lean in, and then even doing like a ride along, like, hey, your first couple calls, like we'll get on, we'll be your guy. We'll get on and do the demos for you. We'll get on and do the walkthrough and help. We'll be the SME. We'll keep it really just under the cover if you want. If you don't, we'll explain who we are. We're here to kind of help. We're the vendor. Like whatever kind of helps them feel comfortable. I mean, you don't want to be misaligned,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yeah.
But I've always seen it as that crawl, walk, run, where it's like, hey, we can get to this point. But yeah, and then I would say the last piece, John, is you've got to have the incentive there for them, because look, everybody's in business. I mean, everybody, we're all here trying to make a buck, pay the bills, put our kids through school, do things we want to do. So what is the beneficial, that's not even a word.
Beneficial.
Thank you. Right. And my mind is spinning here, but but I mean, just being able to, show the benefits and once you get that first, if you can get the one or two deals in and you're there and you're kind of, you're the training wheels, you're the guardrail, whatever analogy you want to use.
Yeah.
Depending on how simple you make it, depending on the support that you give, that rep will become your best salesperson.
Sure. Once they believe and they can talk it and it's easy for them and you're bringing them into deals, I mean, they're going to love you. How many times have you seen partner vendor rep relationships, turn into like golfing buddies, vacation friends, like Dan Emanuele, who will be on our show in a couple of weeks. He actually vacationed with some reps that he did business with at a big, reseller. So, I mean, that's the benefit of the enablement. Helps to just tie everything together. And one thing I've always struggled with was enablement, and like how to get the right enablement out there and how to deliver it. I think with partner portals, it's a lot easier. You can develop a content library and just point them to the content library. But you also have to do the face-to-face, in-person meetings where you talk about your product and do the things that you need to do. So I think it's a critical piece of a build out of and finding and onboarding those partners. It's a must have. You can't ignore it. So we're actually bumping up against time. Let's close with part one of this session on the top 3 actions that you think will improve your partner recruitment and onboarding right away for our audience to kind of take note on.
Sure. So I guess I'll kind of go first. So, and by the way, I made a note because you said something. And I'm always learning, right? So I'm always at least trying to take a new perspective. And I think what I've loved about doing this with you is, as we're talking through things, like we'll say something or you'll say something, and it's just kind of like, yeah, like it kind of opens up a new angle. It's like looking into, light reflecting in a prism, so to speak, where you're kind of like, I know what it is. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a cool angle. So to answer, to kind of, let's see, my top 3 actions or takeaways would be number 1. And I did write this down, right? Number 1 is, have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Have a plan, not just in your head. I'm a huge believer in it. You got to put pen to paper, write it down, type it up, whatever it is, but have a plan on what your partner program or what your partner approach recruiting piece is going to look like. What is your criteria, right? What does that engagement process look like? Have that all laid out. Second, would be, as you start to do that engagement, it's all around the communication, right? I come back to seek first to understand. Make sure that you're being honest, open, transparent, authentic, so to speak, with the partners that you're talking to. Because if it's not a good fit for them, there's a saying in sales, right? Lose fast, so to speak. And if it's not a good fit, that's okay. And by the way, there are some partners that you want to be with them, and you want to definitely work with them. So
Yeah.
this is where the communication piece, I think, is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
And then third would be understand what that next step is going to be. And we'll kind of talk about the engagement piece, but with the onboarding, right? Do you have an understanding of what you need to do and how you're going to execute with them, and set up the time, set up the trainings, be that resource. You are now their emissary, right? You're their guy on the inside. And I used to tell that people all the time, I'm your resource, man. Like, if you need anything, give me a call. Like if something's not right, give me a call. Let's figure it out. We'll get through this, because the goal is you want them to come up and be self-sufficient as quickly as possible, so that they're successful and you're successful, and you've got good communication between the reps, which we'll talk more of that in kind of the next one, which is the engagement piece, which is really getting the buy-in from even your own sales teams. So that'd be my top three.
I like it. I agree with it. I think having a plan, communicating, and then doing everything you need to be a resource to them and help them understand how to wade through the questions and things that you need to get to the close, right? Our jobs are not to sell and close the business. Our jobs are to get the partners who can sell with us to get us into those meetings and to close the business, right? We're an ancillary resource for them to help. And a lot of times, we have quotas over our head to close business. That's great. I think I consider myself a pipeline generation machine, a lead gen machine that help throughout the whole process, right? And your 3 points are spot on to help, accomplish that. So let's end part 1 on this note, and part 2, which will be out in a few weeks. We're going to talk about driving engagement, motivation, and alignment with channel partners, which I think is really important. And as you're out there listening and trying to figure out how to build your own channel program, how to recruit, and how to do all the things you need to do, I think the engagement and motivation piece is critical. Mind share, grabbing and capturing mind share. That's very important.
Absolutely. Look, and I'll just throw the last piece in, which when you get into this, right? And the reason I think it's great to break this out is it's a lot, number one, but this does kind of all encompass a lot of what we talk about in Nearbound, right? Because those first things is, this whole understanding, the recruiting, the onboarding. The next step is a lot of Nearbound, in my opinion, because you're
absolutely,
you got to build trust, right? You're selling with and through somebody to help, solve more problems, right? Pat Emerson used to call it the flywheel effect, right? So if you can get the right things in place, you create this flywheel, because now you've got more people who understand the value and what you're trying to do to go help more people than you could do from a single perspective. So
I agree.
Awesome.
I agree. Well, hey, that was a great episode. We'll end it there. And as we sign off, if anyone is interested in reaching out to us, you could get us at john@channelsurfers.com, jeff@channelsurfers.com. Our website is channelsurfers.com. We also have a LinkedIn page where we post the release of all our shows, and we have information. We're gonna start posting some blogs there too as we go along. But it's a great resource to find us, and certainly if you're out there, like us and repost when you're on the LinkedIn page. We also have a YouTube channel, and we're going to be posting these videos very shortly. And certainly love feedback. If the audience is out there and they want to talk about a story they have, or anything that relates to a topic that we've covered on our shows, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to share your stories with our audience and see if it's something that resonates. So, but until our next episode, Jeff, thanks again for co-hosting. Appreciate your time, and we will chat again very shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Cheers, everybody.